home, business is protected by a quality insurance company. That's why we work with Ohio Mutual Insurance Group. We know you can trust Ohio Mutual to protect what matters most to you and your family. Once you see how Ohio Mutual cares for your needs, you'll trust them as well. Contact us today to get the best coverage from the best companies like Ohio Mutual.
Hi, this is Lisa Griffin of Eastern Connecticut Savings Bank. Well, some banks offer checking account rewards, and some banks rebate ATM withdrawal fees. At Eastern, we say, why choose? Check out our Kasasa checking accounts and find out how you can get both. For more information, visit bankeasternct.com, call us at 860-889-7381, or stop by any of our branch locations today. Eastern Connecticut Savings Bank with offices in Norwich, Jewett City, and Plainfield. Member FDIC. Do you, Kasasa?
Your community radio.
Live from Main Street.
Mike Minarski and Rich Wasselick in the morning. And 80s all day and night.
SNSN.
All right, good. Let's see if this is working here. All right. Good morning, everybody. Welcome to the show. Good morning, James. I called you James. Everything's good. Good. We have a special guest in the studio once again.
Good
morning,
Miss Heather.
We got you over here.
Scooner, aka Dennis the Menace.
Is that what his name is?
Schooner, but yeah, he's
Schooner.
I've been in Schooner. He's a good boy. He just doesn't listen
Yeah.
all that well.
Sometimes I got kids, huh?
Yes, he's awesome. He just wants to run.
That's okay.
Yes.
That's all right. And how old is Schooner?
Schooner's just a year. Sit, Schooner.
Oh, he's just a baby.
Sit, buddy. Sit.
Is he a lab?
I call him a Ram Island retriever. My friend lives on this island off the coast of Mystic called Ram Island that we used to all go there, but now it's private. And her dogs had babies. One's a lab and one's something else. So I think he's like lab and some kind of terrier because he's a really good rat dog.
Oh, perfect.
Yeah. And squirrels.
Certainly is showing mostly the lab.
Yes.
Yeah.
He's a sweet.
That's what I got too.
Sweet dog.
Yeah.
Really sweet. Really super lovey. He just wants to like curl up with you. But if you're a squirrel, I can't even say the word.
You looked at it, yeah.
But does he get in bed with you guys?
Yes. Yeah. Yes, all the time, on the couch, in the bed. He's like half the time, he kicks one of us out of the bed. Yeah, because he's so cute. He sleeps on his back with his legs up. Paws up. Yep, out cold, snoring. So,
Because he hopes you're gonna rub his belly.
I do. Yeah, he's got us trained well. Yeah, and his brother is double his size. He has a brother, Finn, who's a yellow lab, who is double. Oh, yeah, he's rough.
He's exhausted after his run.
So we live on this little cove that's literally like 4 inches of water, right? Mm-hmm. So you can't, you can't do anything really. And if you go in, you sink in the muck. It's like really like a mud flat, right? So his favorite thing to do is to go in there and swim across it, and then climb up on somebody's, yard or deck that doesn't like dogs. And hang out.
And they always know which
They always know which one it is. Yeah.
They go to the guy that's there from England who just like, we ruined his morning reverie.
Hello, she fly.
Right. And I'm like, could you pick the other house? So now he's banished. He can't go in the mud flat.
So how many dogs do you have?
Too many.
So that
people hold it against me. A couple geese, bunch of chickens.
Yeah.
Couple barn cats, maybe a goat or two. So.
Oh,
I know. I was surprised. I went to your house to pick up signs.
Oh, you did?
Yeah, and I'm like, why do I hear a goat? Why am I hearing a goat?
Right. So I have to be quiet because I'm probably breaking zoning laws.
Oh no.
Yeah. They're pets. They're not livestock.
Yeah.
They're pets.
Emotional support pets.
Yes, there you go.
Wait, they have places.
Of course they do.
Where
it's all about the goat yoga.
You can yoga. Yeah.
Or goat snuggles, or they have
right,
all
you can go to a place, right?
And goats can be really, really destructive. We had an evil goat. And she was rotten.
An evil goat?
Oh, she had horns. She would chase my horse. I have a horse in Honest Chest. He had a permanent
Like a gore
boo-boo
mark?
from her horn because she would go
Wow.
like this, get underneath him, and
She wasn't a friendly goat.
Ow.
yeah,
Ouchie.
she was
Sit.
tough,
Sit.
and she'd rear up and like go at them.
Wow.
and
So
it
what
was-
happened to her? Did she?
She passed away. She was like 15.
What, the horse or the goat?
The goat.
Oh,
She was
alright.
like 15 years old.
Give it to the goat taking the
Yeah.
horse. Oh my
No.
god.
Well, no, you know what
I'm about to
happened?
tell you
one day?
something right now. Look at this. Boom, ah, boom.
You know what happened one morning? So I have saddlebreds, and they have long manes, and they get these. They call them devil's braids, like
Yeah.
these knots. So the horse had his head down. He was eating hay. The goat went over and started messing with him, and she headbutted him in his mane. Well, her horns got caught in a devil's braid.
Yeah.
No,
So
the
when he
horse
put
was
his head
flying.
up,
Did she go
she's
flying?
up in the air. Well, it scared the crap out of the horse. The horse started spinning around, and the
With the
goat was
goat?
flying.
Oh my god.
I
wish
was
you had
laughing
that.
so hard I could barely do anything. So I had to walk in. I stopped him from spinning, and she's hanging there. She's like, ah.
Oh my god.
And my husband had to come over and help me lift her up because she weighed like 100 pounds. So we're trying to lift the goat up to get her unstuck. It was horrible.
Okay, I'm sorry, but you
I
can't
hope
go
Schooner wants to go for a walk and see what is going on. Yeah, go ahead.
I had sheep for a while.
Yep.
And my father was in the pen one day, and the ram butted him. And I don't remember if he knocked him down or not. He said, "Next time I go in there, I'm going to have a 2x4, and you're going to have a dead sheep."
Well, that's like my dad walks around with an oar because our boy goat, who's no longer with us, got him really
He-
bad.
He got him with the oar, huh?
Well, the goat got him on his inner thigh and wouldn't let go.
Yeah.
And not the goat. I'm sorry. Our goose. And
Goose.
so he had this like red hematoma thing
Oh
on
my
his
gosh.
inner thigh. So my dad would only walk around with an oar. He's like, if you want to go, I'm gonna whack you with the oar. So anyway,
Well,
yeah, the fun
it
with
happens.
fun with farm animals, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
How much property do you have?
Just
Oh,
a
I'm
small.
just, I'm just
Yeah.
playing with the dog right now.
Yeah, right. No, not a lot.
Yeah.
Not a lot. Just but I love animals, so we
Yeah.
have a lot. We also end up adopting random things that come by, you know, feed them, and
It happens.
yeah, it is.
Do you have a hard time saying no?
To animals,
Yeah.
yes. To people, sometimes, but not to Democrats.
Are you a right to farm community down there?
I love the farm community.
But are you classified as a right
no,
to
I
farm?
wish
No?
I was
Yeah.
classified
I
as
wish
a
we
farm.
were here too.
No, there's parts in
Uh-oh.
no apps. Hey,
Yeah.
Yep.
sorry. Oh my God.
Gonna leave it clear.
Huh?
I'll clean that up. Don't mind that.
I think he just dribbled a little bit.
I
That was
wanted
it.
to make sure you guys know that.
Oh, he's looking. Oh yeah, you don't want him to.
You don't need to be green.
Oh, look at him. Look at him. He's like, I love you. I love you. Oh, look at.
He was looking at my face over here.
Very
Yeah, oh yeah, yeah.
friendly. So I wanted to tell you that after I think it was last week.
Yep.
When you had an interview with the person running for my spot.
Oh, yeah,
You guys
yeah.
must have a lot of influence because he came home and he changed his website.
Really?
Yeah, he took stuff down that you were
That
asking
is so
questions
funny.
on.
Huh?
That's
So
so funny.
we had a before and after, which I thought was funny. All of a sudden, the gun control issue has changed.
Did he have
Really?
Did he have some negatives up there?
No, it was
Oh.
more that like, and that's one of the things that I've noticed in a lot, not just at a lot of the candidates that are running. They're morphing as the election goes. There's no true like core of like
Yeah.
what you stand for. So there was questions asked, not just here, but in other places about his stance on gun control, because he has always been an advocate of more gun control. We need more, gun control, but there's no real meat as to what that means.
Yeah.
And he was asked on a few different areas, and all of a sudden that came
Yeah.
down off the
Well, it
website.
was funny because I found comments of his from years back where he was like so anti-gun. It was unbelievable.
Yeah.
So
And
I
I
was
think
really
that's
surprised that
Disappointing for the people voting, because it's not just, I've seen it in many candidates. They're morphing into something that they think sort of sells for the election.
Yeah.
but
Right.
They're
That's
not really.
the problem.
They're not really grounded in their beliefs. And I think that's a problem because people go and they elect somebody thinking
Yeah.
something and then they change. And
Yeah.
as they,
Oh, we got.
Well,
so
we-
we try to be honest and true. And it was funny. I got an email, a flyer in the mail from a candidate, and it was like, "It's time to talk about taxes. We're going to cut this." I'm like, "Where have you been? Like, your party has created all these taxes,
Right.
and if you think you're going to go up there and strike them with a red line, you're out of your mind. That's just not the way it works." This was a Republican proposal to do this. It was shut down. This was a Republican proposal to do this. It was shut down. And I think sometimes people, don't realize the impacts of some of the things that they may say. For example, a lot of the Democrats are going to be saying, we're going to cut the gas tax. We're going to get rid of the gas tax.
Right.
So what that means,
No roads.
no roads. That means you're going to get tolls.
Yeah.
Because that's what that,
Right.
and I think we should lower the gas tax. We've been saying that for a long time. But if you eliminate it completely, then we have to find a resource to pay for the road
Right.
maintenance. And that will be tolls. And that's the last thing that we want because that'll be even more expensive.
It'd be nice if we did something about the diesel tax.
Absolutely.
Like
We've been
nobody talks.
pushing-
Nobody.
We've been pushing that.
Oh, I know, but
Our
here's-
caucus has been talking about that. Let's get rid of it. But I'll tell you, the reason why they don't want to get rid of the diesel tax is because the DEEP commissioner and the governor want to take every diesel
Right.
truck off the road.
Right.
That's what it is. And that if you make it so expensive, you sort of move the narrative. But we've been pushing to lower that. That affects everything: your food costs, the cost of bread, the cost of eggs, everything, because everything is trucked by diesel
I
trucks.
put-
Why is the price of diesel
Yeah.
almost twice the cost of gasoline when gasoline is a more highly refined product?
That's a wonderful question.
Okay.
well, what
And that
about home
was-
heating oil?
I was just going to
It's
ask,
the
what
same
about
thing.
home
Holy
heating oil? Yeah.
mackerel.
Oh,
I
well,
called
yeah,
the
well,
other day,
diesel-
it's like-
diesel-
587 as of yesterday
Yeah.
that I
That
saw.
is
almost
insane.
$6, yeah.
And so meanwhile, our governor is sitting on what I would consider overtaxation, this big pool of money. Now, some of it has come from the federal government, but people need to understand it's not a gift. That's actually our tax money also
Right.
that we have paid to the federal government. And so he's sitting there with this nest egg of, billion of dollars sitting there that he could return to the taxpayer because we're going to need that to be able to heat our homes or
Yes.
people will literally freeze. And we've been pushing for that and it's gone on deaf ears.
Well, and the other thing is, there's a lot of assistance offered to people who are on state
Right. Like
assistance,
right.
but people who actually work. When fuel is $6 a gallon, and
It's
you
not
need
manageable.
200 gallons a month.
It's not manageable. No, it's not.
It's $1,200.
Yeah, I mean
it's-
that's $1,200 extra a month, and then you
that's
add
more
in the
than
gas money and
Yeah. It's
food prices. It's like
it's right. Every door I knock on, and I've knocked on so many doors that now I have like bursitis in my ear. I'm like, oh my God, it hurts so bad when I step on my foot. That's what everybody talks about.
And
It's like the
it's-
price of everything.
it's middle class people that
Yes.
are suffering now.
Yeah.
It's not
Isn't
low
it
income.
always? It's always.
No, I
Right.
mean
The
We
middle
were-
class
we-
pays the majority of
The
the bills
taxes,
in the
that's true.
nation.
right.
It's very
Okay.
true.
And
They say tax the rich. Well, you tax the rich. Yeah, you can tax and tax all they got. And it isn't going to make a huge difference.
I do want to say before we go any further that your opponent was offered an opportunity to come back into SNSN, and there was no response. So I do want to put it out. I do want to put it out there that the offer had been made on numerous occasions.
You guys have always
Maybe-
been above board, like equal time in all of the races that we've been in. Like you've always extended. If Heather comes, this one can come.
Yeah.
If this one comes, Heather can come.
Yeah.
It's always been.
We've
equal
done
time
that state, local. We've
for
always done
everything,
that. Yeah.
right? So there's no question at all that is.
and I
you know.
thought he liked me. Darn it.
No, maybe he will come back. I don't know. You never know, right?
I do. I just wanted to make sure that it was announced that that just from the issue of fairness that
I have never known
They
you
were.
not to be fair. It's always been equal, and that's actually true of most of every radio station that I've
Yeah.
been on. I mean, I know you're not, you're online, but still,
Right.
you've always followed sort of the proper protocol of equal time for equal people, regardless
you
of
have
what
to.
you're.
Yeah.
I mean, you did it locally with Dana and Todd, right?
Right.
Same thing.
And there were still
And they were
complaints.
still complaints. So there's never a lack of those.
No.
Ever. So we have 12 days left to this election.
Yeah.
Oh, I can't wait.
It's really you see it heating up. I can't tell you how many times my phone is ringing or my email is being blown up. Hey Heather, do you want to come meet me at the electric vote gates at 11:30 at night or 2 p.m.? So we have all these politicians from all over running for statewide office coming and
Yeah.
trying to crunch as much as they can in the last week to meet as many voters and touch as many people as they can.
So we got a question here from
Sure.
Rich. And he says, can you explain how hard it is for one person to change or propose successful? Rich
Rich is still on pills.
he's still on pain
successful
meds.
what? Like legislation or?
Successful a bill.
So I think the question
I don't
is, how hard is it for one person to get a bill passed?
Okay.
Right.
I would
Yeah,
think that was probably
probably.
close. Yeah.
So it is very hard. So one of the things that, if you start with an idea or a constituent has an issue and you put a bill in, you can put it in, you have to get it raised in a committee. So let's say that we had a bill about taxes. It would go to the finance committee. So we would have to convince the finance committee to what they call raise the bill.
Mhm.
So then when they raise the bill, you have a public hearing and you have to get people to come testify in support of that bill. And then you have to get with the committee to have them draft the bill to get it out of committee. I'm sorry, my dog is singing in the background.
No, it's fine.
And then once it's out
Singing
of
with
committee,
the bells that are outside. Yeah.
Yeah.
it's okay, buddy. Once it gets out of committee, then you have to get it. You can get a bill out of committee like 100% unanimous. Everybody thinks it's a great idea. But then at the end of the session, you have to get it called. You got to get it called in the House
Yeah.
and in the Senate. So the best thing you can do, or why I've been so successful in getting so much legislation passed, is because you have to build a coalition on both sides.
Yep.
You have this idea, you have to work with both sides to be able to get it out of committee, to be able to get it called. And you have to work with other people. You have to be able, you can't be a partisan person to get your bill
Mhm.
called, unless of course you're in the supermajority. Then you can do whatever, but then people will put amendments on. Do you remember like when we were fighting the gun range?
Yeah.
There was a majority of Democrats in the Senate, and they had all these bills they really wanted. So what I did is I amended every single one of them, 21 of them, with about the gun range. And then they actually have to work with you because they're like, oh my God, we're gonna have to call this amendment. It takes time,
Right.
and at the end of session, everything has to go quickly.
Mhm.
So when you get a bill that is out there and people want, and you amend it with something that you want because no one listened, then all of a sudden that's when you can negotiate. So it's really kind of an art form of how you go back and forth and negotiate to get your
And this is
bill
why it
across
takes so long.
It's why it takes so
Yeah.
long. It takes so long. So you can have the best idea in the world, and there's so many great ideas, and they never either get called. And there's personalities that play into it too. So if you are somebody who is unpleasant and can't work with people, trying to get the chair of that committee to raise your bill could be really difficult.
Well, the problem is that maybe we have a good bill, but then by the time we get through adding all the rest of it onto it, I mean, personally, I think bills should stand alone. And I
And
understand,
sometimes they are.
and I understand why why
Mhm.
all the politicians have to do this.
Mhm.
It's the only way you're going to get anything done. But I mean, to amend a bill with something that has nothing to do with it whatsoever.
Oh, it has to be germane. So it has to have some kind of connection. It can't be like, I couldn't have amended the gun range bills on finance bills. It would
Yeah.
have to be something to do with the environment. It has to be close, or else it doesn't work. They'll say this is not germane, and they'll throw it out.
Let's see, a couple of comments, and one comment and a question. Cindy says this is going back to the middle class conversation part of it. Middle class is always stuck in the middle, work our butts off, and yet we don't make enough to absorb the increase, yet make too much to qualify for any kind of
Right.
state
That's
That's what I'm
assistance.
saying.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
100% true.
Yeah.
And so one of the things that we've tried to do, let's say for the fuel oil assistance this year, which has been rejected by the Democrats, they want to wait for the feds because they want to wait for the white horse to come, is that let's increase that income threshold for families, because it's exactly what you said. If you're on the lower part of the socioeconomic scale, you'll get assistance, you'll get food assistance, you get heating assistance. And if you're on the higher end, you're not impacted, right? But the guys in the middle, like the families that I talked to that have 4 kids or 3 kids, and they have working 2 jobs, paying a mortgage, paying a car payment. Now they have food going through the roof, prices of food, and now they can't make it. I don't know how many people. We need to provide some relief for those in that middle class that are paying all the bills.
We were just talking about the oil costs.
It's insane. It's insane. I mean, some people's oil bills are literally more than their mortgages.
Yeah.
At this point.
Ours will be.
And not only that, but I mean, we talk about, diesel, which is an obvious one, gas, obvious, home heating fuel, food.
Right. And I think people need to recognize the price of diesel is so expensive. It's very similar to your home heating oil, right? Diesel. But every single thing that comes to Connecticut is on a truck. That's a diesel truck. So that means they're paying higher prices. I mean, look at the price of, went grocery shopping for the first time in like a month because I have no time. And my daughter was begging me, I think I mentioned this before, will you buy Doritos? I'm like, I am not spending $6 on a bag of Doritos.
It's nuts, isn't it?
That's crazy.
Yeah.
That's crazy. I'm just not. Or
I bought butter the other day.
Yeah.
$4.50 a pound.
Right. I mean,
for butter?
Butter.
We paid $3.70 a pound for chicken breast.
That is crazy.
That's nuts right there.
Chicken has been.
Melissa showed it to me. She goes, "Can you believe this?" And I went,
right. Or like the chicken, like chicken drumsticks, or like the thighs that used to be like, I don't know, $1.49 or 69 cents a pound every once in a while. Those were in the store the other day for $2.99 a pound. I couldn't believe it. I'm like, you chicks in your yard, my yard, you better be good because you're going to be dinner. Sorry, Maybell. I mean, but
one of the things that always bothered me is, and I'm going to use the example of a single mother, okay, because she can get all these benefits, but if she goes and gets a part-time jobs and just trips over the trigger level, then all her benefits, well, I won't say all of them, but I'm thinking of health and health insurance in particular, it stops.
Well, I think that there's like the state has done some things that I think are good. One of the things they do for this reason, like if you had a single mom or a single dad or a young person that's getting benefits because they can't find a job and they're home and they have kids, the state now will help supplement the daycare costs because daycare costs are, again, as much as a mortgage. But if that person goes to work, all the money is eaten up by the daycare costs. So they can never sort of get out of that cycle. So the state of Connecticut, it's called Care for Kids. We have a program now that we will help supplement your daycare. And the thought is eventually that child will be in school where you're not going to need that kind of daycare. And the person at that point can be higher up in the job. And that my daughter is a single mother and she made too much money to qualify for that program, which is not a lot of money. So we as a family have to chip in and help watch my granddaughter when we can. She does go to daycare and we try to help supplement, but daycare is very expensive. So you're right. There should be a sliding scale, and that's why so many people that you talk to, I feel badly because there's many people that think, oh, look, they just don't want to work. They're being lazy. But in the fact, it's really like if they go to work, everything they earn is eaten up by daycare and this and that. So it doesn't make sense. So we need to change our programs so they make sense for the people rather than the people trying to fit into our programs. And, I'm all for giving somebody a helping hand so that they can step out. And, years ago, my dad was trying to say, what's the difference between a Republican and a Democrat? And I'll never forget, he told me this story. I think I might have mentioned this before. He said, if there was a horse that was walking along and it fell into a well, a Democrat would take a shovel and feed it every day. Would feed it food every day. A Republican would give it food and also do a shovel full of dirt so that eventually
it'll be able to get out.
The horse could step out. So that had always stuck with me. And
good analogy.
Yeah. It's very simple for me. For my dad, like, what's the difference?
All right. Question from Rich Grabowski. He says, Senator, what is holding up the senior center grant money that you got passed from being sent to us to finally finishing that project?
That's a really good question. And from all indications, I mean, it's not on the state. The town is required to do certain things and sign a contract with the state in order to receive the money. I have been trying to get a status of where that is. When I talk to the OPM in the state, they say it is in
What is OPM?
the Office of Policy Management.
Gotcha,
They're
okay.
the ones that sort of sign the contracts. So when you get bonding money, the state just doesn't write you a check and say, here you go. You have to submit your expenses to the state, they approve them, and then they reimburse you. That's how it works. So I don't know. I haven't been able to, I haven't spoken with the first selectman to find out where
So
it
that
is.
would actually be a better question for
That would be a good
Mrs.
question
Bennett.
for the first select person.
Okay.
Well,
Yes.
I was at. I'm on
But
the-
it's not, I will tell you, it is not a state thing. I've talked to the state. Last time I talked to them, they said they're waiting for information from the town, and it was with the town attorney, and they can't do anything until they receive that information.
I'm on.
It's frustrating for me. Nobody knows how hard I had to work to
Yeah.
get that money. And now just watching it, I'm like, come on, what is
Yeah.
taking so long? This should have been open and
Should have
ready to
been done a
go.
long time ago.
Yeah. So, I'm not sure what the mix up is. If it is the state, I'm happy to get involved. I just need to know, I need the selectman to reach out and tell me
Right.
what she needs.
Okay, I'm on the senior center building committee, that we had a meeting last night. And at that meeting, this first select lady, she did say that the paperwork had been signed by the attorneys. This was the latest.
The latest.
This is the latest I got last night at
Okay.
5:00. So but there's of course, there's another whole aspect of this. And there was another piece of bonding that was submitted, and I don't know the details of this one, Heather, that
You're fine.
was submitted, and the money we're getting apparently is for purchasing, is for paying construction expenses going back to, I think,
That is not at all what the bond is designated for. If that may have changed, she might have changed it, but the bonding money that I got was specifically for going forward. And so if there's some change that she requested, I know that there was some information that she wanted to have previous construction reimbursed. That would be different than what I had put in for the bonding request. So maybe that's why it's delayed it and taken longer.
well, my understanding is there's no money for, and I could be wrong, but there's no money to buy furniture and things like that. So we're taking the old furniture with us to the new senior center.
I
It just
think,
is one example.
yeah, I think bonding is very confusing. So, for example, if the state comes to the town and they actually have to negotiate a contract on this is what it's for. And if the town has asked for the state to reimburse old invoices, that would be a much more difficult ask and probably very unusual. So if that is the case, they're going to have to provide all of the paperwork showing that it was built properly with, CHRO and what the requirements are, which would take longer. Once you get that money reimbursed, you can do anything you want with that money. So once that money is reimbursed, it's the town's money. You could go buy fancy velvet curtains, so you've already expended the money here. You're getting it reimbursed. You can do whatever you want with that money. So for somebody to say that you can't use it for furniture, that's actually illegitimate. You would have to decide if you want to use it for furniture. But going forward for new construction, if you're putting a deck on, if you're doing, I don't know, building a gazebo, those invoices would be sent to the state. The state would reimburse them. Once you get that money in your hand, you can do anything you want with that money.
Huh. Well, that's new. Huh, Jim?
Seems to be.
Yeah.
But again, I'm not qualified to speak on it. I don't know the
Yeah.
ins and out and the details of it.
The state will pay
That's
again,
very interesting, Heather.
construction
That's very
costs.
interesting.
So if you're putting in, all right, let's just say you're building a building, right? They will reimburse you for those construction costs. You have to have the right paperwork. Once you get that reimbursement back, because you've expended that money, you can go spend that on furniture. You're not asking them to reimburse you for furniture. You're asking them to reimburse you for the construction costs. You've got those costs back, that money back. You can spend that on whatever you want. I actually just had that conversation with OPM last week.
But well, that makes sense.
Right.
Because
It does. It makes
how
perfect
can they
sense.
how can they tell you what to do with your own money?
Does that make sense?
Yeah, that
Yeah.
totally makes
Right.
sense. I don't know how
See-
anybody could convince you otherwise.
See, now this is the common sense that I think this town has been looking for, for quite some time. as far as what's like this question that Mr. Grabowski just asked about
Right.
what's going on. Who
Well,
knows?
Is he still a selectman?
No,
Okay,
no, no,
I'm
no,
sorry.
no. He's not at this time.
He was a selectman,
He was
right? Yes, he was a.
He was a
With
selectman.
Todd,
He
right.
was a treasurer.
So
Yes.
he should. I'm sure he is frustrated too. So
Yeah.
let's.
And very familiar what goes on
Right.
in town.
So let's just put this out there. There was, from what I understand, there was about $700,000 that, if I remember this correctly, that the town had to go back and get more money to fix.
760, I
All right,
believe. Yeah.
760. The bonding was for $1.2 million.
Yes.
If you put in all of your receipts for the 760 plus whatever you're spending on your senior center now for construction costs, that money would be reimbursed to the town and you can spend it on what you want. Maybe the plan is just to reimburse the town and not spend any money on
You
anything.
notice we're sitting here dumbfounded, right?
It's not that. And that's the way it works.
It's kind of like if you work for a company and they say, we'll reimburse you for gas. So you give them your receipts. They can't then say to you, you have to spend that money we just gave you on gas.
That's
You
that's
can
a
go
good
buy a
analogy.
candy bar.
Right.
But I think you just hit on a
But in
key
order-
topic
It makes
that some of
perfect
the money
sense.
You're trying to put back into the town.
Right. And which
Treasury.
maybe is your choice, but that's your choice to
Mhm.
do that. So the other thing is, in order to be able to submit those receipts, you have to have a contract signed. And the last time I checked with OPM, there was all this outstanding paperwork from the town attorney that needed to be submitted. Granted, that was a few weeks ago, so sounds like that's all done. And then once that's signed by both the attorneys, the attorney at the state and the attorney at the town, then quote unquote from OPM, send me the invoices and we'll start reimbursing them.
Yeah.
And when you get reimbursed, you can spend that money on whatever you want.
Whatever. Yeah.
You could buy, whatever, glow lights and disco
Right.
lights. It's, that's your town's, money. And so obviously there's the money that you maybe want to reimburse, but there's also additional expenses that you can reimburse for and then spend it on what you want.
Yeah.
But you should be frugal. So if you have furniture that you can use, you can use. If it's not acceptable, then you guys can decide what you'd like. I think, I think when we were last here, there was, I can't remember who said it, but somebody said that there was a very large benefactor that was going to donate some stuff for the senior center.
Mhm.
I don't know what it was specifically.
Yeah, I heard it was all
Tables and chairs for the main room.
Good.
Like
I mean-
30 tables and I think 80 chairs or something.
I feel for the
it
seniors.
was a private donation and the
Yeah,
person
private.
didn't even
That's awesome. That's
Yeah.
really nice. And I know that there's a baby grand piano that I think is waiting to go in, which
Yeah.
is
Oh wow.
that's really nice. I don't know who it
Got a
is.
value of maybe $20,000.
That's a nice
Sweet.
donation.
Yeah,
Yes.
it's beautiful. Rich Waslick,
So I don't know if that's clear. I just tried to
oh no,
how
that's crystal clear.
that's how
Heather.
bonding
That's-
works,
That's
you know?
pretty crystal clear. And that's probably the best description we've had on that entire subject since the beginning of time.
It's just like the gas. It's a really good analogy.
But it's just common sense.
Right.
Well,
They can't
yeah.
reimburse you for something that they don't have the receipt.
Well, we've been
for.
asking this question. I mean, the three of us, we've had, individual conferences, and talks about it
Mhm.
and conversations. You just explained it in 5 minutes and put it in layman's terms that I'm like, because I'm not the brightest bulb in the shed. I know that.
Yeah, I think
But-
it's complicated, but it's not really if you boil it down. You just have to
Yeah.
get the town and the state on the same page as far as the contract. Now, if the town is going to be asking for things to be reimbursed for that happened like way back when, the tricky part is going to
Yeah.
have all that paperwork from whoever did the construction, blah blah blah. They're going to want to verify that was done in a certain way, and then they'll get reimbursed, and you can spend that money on whatever you want. That's how it works.
Mind blown. Because we've been asking for a year, at least.
Quite some time.
And
Okay.
I have to tell you, the only reason why I'm even calling OPM, I don't have to. I normally have gotten bonding in other towns, and they've gotten their money. So I don't know what the disconnect is. Might be a more complicated project, but the only reason I called OPM just to find out where we were, and I don't think they're going to lie to me. I mean, they told me honestly. I talked to them. He's like, as soon as you get those invoices and we will start reimbursing right away, is because I've gotten so many calls from seniors saying, what is going on? And, Heather, you're not doing this. I'm like, I got you the money. It's in the town and the state's hands to figure out how to make it work. And, there's many seniors that are really upset. They've sort of been, from what they've said, displaced. They've packed up all their stuff. They keep getting promised and they just want to get in, especially before the winter,
It sounds like the ball is in the town's court.
It has
right now.
been. The ball has
It's
been
been
in the
sitting
town's
there.
court. Right.
So if people want answers, they should call the town.
Yeah, I mean, I can't say if there was something at the state maybe that took longer to get together, and
Well,
I don't want to. I'm not
OPM
blaming
is really slow these days
They've been slow,
because
but you gotta
our POCD went in
Mhm.
like ages ago and it's still not.
not approved.
Yeah, we're like we did it.
So,
We're done.
and that's what I'm here for. If there's a holdup in OPM or the state, all you need to do is call me and say, hey, I need help expediting this. And that's what we do. And I'm happy to make those calls. I'm calling them anyway because I'm getting so many calls from seniors going, what's going on?
Yep.
So I'm thinking, geez, what is going on? So, it sounds like you're on the right path finally to get things going. And I hope it expedites so we can get everybody in there before
Great.
it gets cold, right?
Yeah. I mean, the seniors have been looking forward to this building since before COVID. Now, this is something that Tina Falk has been working on since 2010?
It's been like 3 years, hasn't it?
Oh,
Actually, no, it goes back to
12 years.
It goes
Andy
way
Maynard,
back,
right?
yeah.
Because Andy had gotten some
Yes,
original money
yeah.
for you all to figure out the design of the building.
Yep.
So that's a long time.
That's a very long time.
Yeah.
And it's from what I've seen, just the quick before it was finished, I saw something. It's beautiful. You guys should be really proud of the design. It's gorgeous, and it's going to be a great place for seniors to be, actually the whole community to come together. It's really beautiful. We
Yeah.
just got to get it across the finish line.
Jennifer Gauthier says, not for nothing, but I might know something else that works at OPM that could help. Just saying. She works for OPM. Jen Gauthier, she's so what do you got, Jen?
Well, we've been talking to OPM, and I
Yeah.
tell you what they've said. They can only do what they can do within the limits of, what the contract
Yeah,
needs
but-
are,
and the
etc.
regulations and all of this.
So
Okay, that's it.
no other questions.
Other questions right now. They'll pop in though. They'll pop in. But this is
So how about this weather, huh?
she's what they call a municipal
hot. It's
assessment
hot.
professional.
It was gross the other day.
I was doing doors yesterday, and I'm like, I wanted to jump into Patchogue Pond because I was so hot and sweaty.
Yeah.
And totally dressed inappropriately because I had like layers and layers. I'm like, what is with it's sunny and humid and gross.
Yeah.
And I just made my husband take all the window units out for like the air conditioning. I'm like, can you put that back in?
Yeah.
It's gross. It's
Yeah.
gonna
I'll
be
do it
warm this
next.
whole week.
I'll do it next spring,
I
honey.
know. It's supposed to be warm all this week, even
Yeah.
like next week,
Yeah.
65-ish.
I guess when you
It's
put
crazy.
LOL at the end of a statement, that takes away it from it being a backhanded slap. So I had said no more questions. There were no more questions. Rich goes, I asked one. LOL.
What did he ask?
We didn't hear you, Rich.
Will they look at bills such as the police reform and
Huh.
get rid of the negative impacts?
Oh, we've been trying to do that for ever since that bill passed. So as most people know, the police accountability bill was a very, very negative bill for our
Very
police.
controversial.
Yes. And
Very.
it included, everybody says, oh, it included some good things. It included positive things that police were already doing that actually didn't need to be in the bill. But the negative things, the big thing was stripping qualified immunity. So if you work for the town, everybody has qualified immunity except a police officer now. So of the 8 towns that I represent, I only have 1 police chief left. Every other ones, they've all gone. And it's really hard to hire a police officer now because of this system that we have. Literally, if you pulled somebody over and they didn't maybe even like the way you looked at them or spoke to them, they can civilly sue you. So as a police officer, you're putting your house, your college fund for your kids, your personal income, everything on the line being a police officer. And that I think is unfair. These people are protecting and serving us, and now we're asking them to go out there. So what you'll see now is if you look at the funding that the state used to get for speeding tickets, it used to be, I think, like 60 or $80 million a year for people speeding the tickets. It's like nothing now because police are not pulling people over. Why,
Can you blame them?
No, you can't. And the other thing that I think is really, really important that people don't know about this police accountability bill is if you pulled somebody over for a broken taillight before the police accountability bill, as a police officer, you could approach the car and you could look. And if you had a suspicion, like you thought something was off, and these men and women have been doing this for a long time, so they have sort of that intuition. You could ask the person in the car, can I search the vehicle? Or you could ask the passenger, are you safe? Do you want to be here? Can I, you are not allowed to ask that any longer. So you could actually have, and I brought this up on the floor, you could have a woman in the back that maybe is victimized or abducted. You can't ask them anything anymore. You have to get a warrant to be able to search that vehicle.
That's crazy.
And that's where the majority of the arrests were made for like illegal guns. We hear all the Democrats talking about taking all the guns off the street, anti-gun, but we can't even ask anybody anymore. And that's where they were seizing drugs and guns when they would do a search, because obviously not every criminal is brilliant. And they're like, yeah, sure, go ahead, search the car. You know what I mean?
I haven't met a smart criminal.
So, but that's a huge thing. And every police officer you talk to, that's where the majority of, the arrests were made on those pullovers. And that's why, they are really, they can't do that anymore. So you have to, it raised the level of like, having this intuition or the suspect to actually having probable cause to search the vehicle. And so now, before you could ask, now you can't even ask, which those are two things that have really made policing like impossible. So I can tell you the Republicans want to roll that back. We stand with police. We always have. That's why most of us are all endorsed by the Fraternal Order of Police. I've been endorsed by my police unions in the districts where we have police.
Other than state police, you're talking about
Plainfield Police.
Plainfield, like Mario Arriaga.
Because they know that we stand with them and that we're not just giving them lip service. So I think that people should look for every person that voted in support of that police accountability bill and vote them out of office, because they have made us less safe. And they will talk about
absolutely.
crime for the serious crimes have increased. The other crime looks like it's decreased because the police are not chasing these people and they're not doing because they're liable.
So we're going to see a big change in statistics. It's not real.
Well, they're to say lies, and statistics, right? So that's why. And you have juveniles that are literally like running rampant, stealing cars. My husband was at Target in Waterford, and he pulled in and he called me. He's like, I can't believe what I just saw. He said he thought they were like filming a movie, or it was like the Geek Squad or something. This blacked out car came up in front of another car and like crossed it like a T, so the car couldn't get out. And these guys got out and they were all in masks. And in like, he's like, in 10 minutes, not even, they had stole 2 catalytic converters and took off. And that's a huge issue. It happens all the time. It's mostly juveniles. We can't do anything because the state of Connecticut says you can't chase a juvenile. And if you arrest them, because the Democrats have been so soft on crime, they're just let out anyway. So the police are like, this is ridiculous.
Don't they have a no chase policy anyway?
We do in the state of Connecticut. But as soon as you cross over into Rhode Island, it's a different story. They will chase you into the ditch.
There was a group that went to Plainfield. It was adults that dropped off underage people who went and stole cars. And then they were supposed to drive them out of town to the older people and take them home. Well, one of the kids couldn't drive. He was like 14 or 15 years old, smashed up multiple vehicles, hit a building. He didn't get in any trouble.
Right.
His parents came and picked him up.
Yeah.
There's no
accountability. There's a police accountability, but there's no criminal accountability. Right.
Well, my oldest son is a police officer.
Oh, so
he purposely moved to New Hampshire.
Yep.
Because he will not be a police officer in the state of Connecticut.
Isn't that sad? You lost your son leaving the state because of this police accountability bill.
It's nuts.
It is crazy. So that's like a number one issue. It was last year where
Mhm.
we made some tiny little improvements, but again, we have to change the makeup of the legislature in order to change this bill. And if Bob Stefanowski becomes governor, I know that's one of his priorities to get back to having our police be able to police
Mhm.
and to make sure that people that commit crimes are held accountable. I mean, we've seen it with early release. We've seen it now. It's wild. You can't look at those statistics that Lamont is putting out because they're skewed by the fact that no police officers are stopping these people. So yes, crime's down because we're just not paying it. We're just not doing it.
I mean, I was in another town because it wasn't Jewett City, but I was visiting a friend, and there was a police officer, state police
Mhm.
officer across the way, and just watching traffic going back and forth. And I'm not kidding you, people are brazen. They are absolutely it's like they're challenging. It's like,
Yeah.
I'm going to challenge you
Then I can sue you.
right through the light. Boom, just no chase. Just let them go. But it's things like that that are obvious and flagrant that they're not,
Right.
but I understand why.
Yeah. I mean, you can't blame our police officers. They, again, it's this decision on. I mean, I believe that they're going to do the right thing. They do in the circumstances, but are you going to risk it and it pulls somebody over, and then you're not going to risk? Can I search your car? You could turn around and get sued. God forbid if you did search the car, they gave you permission and you found something. You're not supposed to ask them. You didn't have the proper warrant. It'll probably get thrown out anyway, and you're going to risk being civilly sued for that. So we've really handcuffed our police and not the criminals.
Yeah.
And it has to change. It has to change. People don't feel safe. We can hear all, the Democrats saying, oh, we're safer than we are. Well, they're not looking at hard crime. If you look at homicide and rapes, those are up. It's the smaller petty
Hartford.
crimes that they're not going after anymore.
There was a time in Hartford, every week, somebody was
every
getting,
week.
every single week, there was a homicide in Hartford for the longest time.
Yeah.
I knew a police officer that,
Well, then look what just happened to our officers in Bristol. I mean, that was just tragic.
Yeah.
Do you know what was that all about? Why were they?
I don't know
They
the
were basically
details.
assassinated.
They were lured, and here's
ambushed.
ambushed. And you think about it, like when we all call 911, we don't even think that they're not going to show up, right? They show up, they put their lives on the line. So somebody made the false 911 call, and then they were waiting for them. And it's just, I have a hard time even thinking about it and not getting upset. Those were young men. They had young families.
Yeah.
It's just crushing to the police community and to us as a state. I don't know who these perpetrators are. I know one's not alive, but one is. I don't know what their backgrounds are. I don't know if they've been in and out of our system that doesn't work and lets people go, but it's time for justice reform in the state of Connecticut. There's no doubt about it.
Rich says it has set up society to have no respect and even murder
See, I
police
think
officers.
that's in
Yeah.
our town. I live in Sterling, as you know, and I think that's the issue in our town is there's no respect anymore.
Mhm.
So
And there's no
we're
respect in
ha-
Sterling. That's a big
we're
thing.
having this whole discussion about getting a resident trooper.
Mhm.
People don't want to pay the money, and I'm like, but if we continue to let this escalate, we're going to have a major problem. I mean, we have a
Don't we
big
have a major
issue.
problem now?
We have literally there are hundreds of motorcycles and cars that show up usually on the weekend now. During the summer, there were weeknights, but now it's on the weekend. And they go up in our industrial park and use the road for stunts and burnout competitions and
So it's an organized
Hours.
event, huh?
hours and hours they're up there.
Wow.
And we've told the police, residents call. We had a meeting about possibly getting a state trooper. They said, oh, by the way, do you know you have a state trooper liaison? No, nobody's known this in
Mhm.
however many years you've had it. But he works nights. Our selectmen work days.
Mhm.
So they keep missing each other. It's emails back. and-
Right.
But they said, oh, well, we could go up there, but we have to schedule. And well, somebody needs to do something.
Right.
Like this is a safety issue. They're destroying town property. And everybody goes, oh, well, call the police. Well, they don't want to do anything.
Right. Well,
No-
it's tough
one
too
police
because
officer is going to go up there by themselves.
Yeah.
Well,
Right.
partly for what that Heather was just
Exactly.
describing.
right.
Yeah.
Well, the other thing is too, it's tough. I know we had issues on Beach Pond up here, and Voluntown.
And
If
that
you
used to be
call-
a fun spot when I was a kid.
That is it's a beautiful, fun
It was a
spot. But there was
blast.
a lot of complaints about speeding. What are those things called? on the
Jet
water?
skis.
Jet skis. Yeah, I can't think of the word. That were knocking people off the docks and drinking
Yeah.
and this and that the other thing. But it's half Rhode Island, half Connecticut. So as soon as you go up there, they just go on the Rhode Island side, and there's no
Right.
jurisdiction. But calling the state police, you can do that. And I remember calling with the first select woman, but they said, look, we've got 2 fatalities. We have to prioritize. And,
Are you talking Tracy Hansen at this point, right? Okay.
Yes. And, because they're understaffed, because under the Democrat Malloy, he had cut we used to have a class of 100 cadets every year. He would cut it from the budget, So now we have,
33 that graduated
yes,
in the last class.
right. And we are way understaffed. I think we're supposed to have 1,300. We have about 900, a little less than 900, and 50% of them can retire.
Yeah.
And so there's
I know,
not
that's scary,
enough
isn't it?
manpower. So they have to prioritize. So they're going to a fatality. They can't come to Beach Pond or Sterling because
Right.
that's a lower priority than. And so there's
You have to wait until you have that fatality. Then they might.
right,
talk.
but it's really tough. So if you want to attract more people to go in, if you want a full class, who's going to go in with now the police accountability bill?
Right.
And so that's and the people that do go in, you're not getting like the top-notch folks
Right.
that you used to,
Right.
because it's just they've chosen to do other things. And I was just at a thing in North Stonington a few nights ago, and there's a police officer there from the city of Groton, and he's like, I have 2 more years and I'm done. I'm out. Where he probably would have, he's young, but he would have stayed on. But he's like, I just can't anymore.
Yeah.
I can't. So that is a sad day for all of us as residents. And so again, look at who voted in support of that police accountability bill and vote the other person who's going to change
Right.
that.
Yeah,
And if
well,
somebody won't say that whether they would have voted, they should know that law. They should know the vaccine law. If they're running for office, they should know those laws. Those are some of the most important
Yeah.
things to constituents. And if they don't, then they shouldn't be running.
I tend to look at a candidate, and if they haven't done something specifically that I improved of, I will not vote for them. Simple as that.
Well, that's a good way to look at it. Or just, have a candidate that's going to be not one person in one town and a different person in another
Well,
town.
I think that.
That's chameleon. We have a lot of that.
Yes.
Shayna says they just don't pay our police enough for all of the sacrifices they make each day when they walk out the door. And I just feel most people, it takes a tragedy, we just
Yeah.
talked about
Yeah.
this, for them to need the police and to appreciate them.
That's
have-
probably very true.
I have a friend who's a police officer in a local police department, and this person is very, very close to retirement age, and I just want this person to be done.
Yeah.
I just stop going, and I think that they probably could,
Right.
but it's
But if they have a
for the
calling,
love of the job.
yeah, they're calling. I
Yeah,
remember during the police accountability, argument on the Senate floor, everybody was talking about the specifics of the bill, and you've heard that over and over. So I always try to talk about something different to bring a different perspective, because you're just saying the same thing over, many of us. So I brought in the true stories of police officers. Actually, one of them lives right here, that had told me the stories of different things that they had done, or the way they interact with the community, because there was just this false narrative being pushed by the Democrats that basically all police officers are bad and they're just out to get people, and they're abusive, they're this, that, and the other thing. And I told the story that was told to me directly about an officer who works in New London, and she got a call from a Walgreens where a man had stolen some goods. And so she went down there
I know
and
this story.
opened up the bag, and it was like bandages and like, I think, alcohol, not the kind you drink, the
Yeah,
kind you put
rubbing
in a
alcohol,
wound.
yeah.
Yeah, and she paid for the
police officer
the
did.
police officer
Yeah.
out of her own pocket paid for the products, and then she sat there and she washed the person's feet. It was a homeless person that had like wounds all over his feet. Diabetic wounds.
Yeah.
And she dressed the wounds, and then she said, don't you ever steal again. If you need something, you call me. And I didn't realize, somebody said that when I was telling the story, I had much more detail at the time because I had it all written down. That's what I remember of the story. Somebody said there was like this whole sort of like biblical analogy in there about washing somebody's feet, and like, or like the little boy who in the middle of the night ran out of his house and was terrified. His mom had been in an abusive relationship. He woke up and he didn't see her, and he ran, and he was walking down the street when this police officer saw this little boy at like 3:00 in the morning, and she took care of him. It turned out it was nothing. The mom had just like went to sleep on the couch or something. But he just got so scared from the trauma that he had been through. And the police officer took him in the car, gave him like hot cocoa, comforted him, and it all worked out. Those are the stories you don't hear about the police.
Right.
You don't hear about all those good things. And I was trying to bring these stories forward. And of course, the Democrats are like, well, why did she have to say that? Well, why did she have to say that it was somebody living in New London? I was just reiterating the story. So there's all these things that police officers do. Like, Greg Howard is a police officer down in Stonington.
Detective.
And he, he does amazing things for the kids. But all those things,
He runs the youth football.
right? And that all goes like quiet, and you don't hear about those things. You hear about like maybe the one person that shouldn't be a police officer that did something wrong. You know?
And the news, if it bleeds, it leads.
Right.
Yeah.
The old expression.
I can tell you about that story about that police officer in London. That they
they told me that wasn't true. I remember because people were commenting on the floor saying that's not a true story.
No, I
And
know them
luckily-
personally. You know them personally.
Right.
I
Luckily,
mean,
the person was like, "This is true because this was my partner."
yeah.
Yeah. So I wouldn't make something up, but that's what you got.
She actually at the pharmacy did everything she could to convince them to not press charges, because I guess the person was like, "Am I going to go to jail or something like that?"
Right.
And she said, "Well, maybe if depending."
Right.
And then she went and
she paid for it.
yeah, and then not only that, but they could have still pressed charges. She could convince them, said,
Right.
"Look," because it wasn't a criminal issue; it was a human issue.
Right.
Right.
He was not that but there was like a true need there.
Yeah.
Right.
So, and just the way she handled it, I thought was, amazing. Dressing the wounds, cleaning them up, paying for it, and then saying, "Don't you ever steal again, you call me."
Right.
She cooks a mean steak too.
Does she? Sure. I'm sure she does. But, these are these
Absolutely.
wonderful people that dedicate their lives, that are, do amazing things for our community that we don't hear about those things.
Yeah.
And they don't go around talking about them. You have
No.
to sort of pull it out of them. And so I think it's really important to keep that in perspective. Yes, there are officers that shouldn't be in. We have some that are being prosecuted now for crimes that they've done against people.
Heather, there are people that work at Kohl's that shouldn't
Right.
work at Kohl's.
Exactly.
It's
And the thing about qualified immunity that is really important for people to understand is it's not like you automatically get a free pass. You have to apply for qualified immunity. If you're a police officer
Right.
and you do something really wrong that's egregious, you don't get qualified immunity. Right. But instead of handling it like that, like we used to, now we've just stripped it from everyone. And it's a terrible bill, and it needs to be changed. And I know the
Look at
Republicans.
the specifics.
Absolutely.
it's such a difference from back when I was a kid. We had a local Jewett City police force, and Mr. Fields
Yes.
was the chief of police. Now, here's the irony. There was still a lot of racism and stuff going on. And Mr. Fields was African American. He was chief of police.
He might have been the first. Was
But-
he the first African American chief of police in the state of Connecticut? I wonder.
I think he was, and I think he was the second in the country.
That's amazing.
Yeah, but Mr. Fields was amazing. The kids loved him.
They still talk about him. That's how amazing it is.
I'm
You're talking
56.
about
I'm
right.
still talking about Mr. Fields, and we all know Steve Fields
Yes,
went
Steve
in.
Fields.
Had an incredible career, and he works for the city of New London
Yep,
now. I
City of
believe.
New London.
So there was him. There's another police officer who currently works for Norwich, and he was a Jewett City police officer. And I remember one time I was driving to school. I was 17 years old, and he was at the top of Pleasant View, and I'm coming up, and he goes like this with his radar gun. And I'm like, oh crap, I'm gonna get pulled over, right? And then I got up there, and he looks at me, and goes,
Gotcha.
yeah. But what was the message there? Because he was very visible in town, and still is.
The message was slow it down, buddy.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm watching you.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. But you're good. Don't worry about it. You
This
know.
time.
Right. But but you know what? He made his point.
Yep.
You know, kind of like, a dad.
Yep.
You know, here's your one pass. And that's what it was like back then. They don't do that these days because they can't. Imagine if somebody did that now.
No, you'd probably be in trouble for pointing something.
Exactly. That's exactly where I was going with that. You read my mind. Let's see. Another comment. They need to print these stories somewhere of police experiences such as these so people can connect with the humanism in police and make it relatable.
That's a great idea.
Yeah.
That's a great idea.
So
That would be a great, wouldn't that be a great, like, well, it would never go on NPR because they never do it. But, something like, they have like these podcasts where they interview older veterans or older folks and they tell their story and then it's like, it's archived. Just having police officers be able to tell their story. I don't know if they would or not about some of the things that they've encountered. Some police officers have the experience of the training, but never expecting all of a sudden they've delivered a baby. And it's like the most miraculous thing that they've been able to do in their life. Or, there's so many good stories, but you'd have to like pull it out of them. But that would be an interesting book or podcast.
Who was also, a very respectable state trooper, and he's actually been retired longer than he was a state trooper. Your dog, by the way, is sleeping.
Yeah. He powers down. He's such a good boy when he comes down, except for the piddle over there. So.
He's a dog,
Heather's dog.
Yeah. Well, he'll be back.
He's just out cold.
So this police officer, this is Terry Sumner.
Oh yeah.
Okay. He's actually been retired.
Amazing.
Doesn't he?
Oh my God.
God.
He looks so good.
He does. He told me this story one time, kind of like, talking about stories. He said, Mike, he goes, the whole time I was a police officer, I never pulled my gun once.
Wow.
Over 20 years. Never once did he pull his gun. Just put it in perspective.
Right.
Yeah, but things nowadays are so different. Like when I was a kid and I lived in North Stonington, we had constables, and then we finally got a resident trooper, and
which Killingly does now.
Some of our constables were up there in years and really couldn't fire a firearm. So there was one, and he used to walk around with a pistol on his hip with no bullets in it. Because he wanted his gun, but the resident trooper, who happened to be my father-in-law, said, you can't have bullets anymore. You can carry your gun, but you can't have bullets. Nowadays,
right.
That wouldn't fly.
That's funny.
Yeah, Mr. Gencarella.
Heather, thank you so much for stopping by.
No, thanks for having me and Schooner.
You're gonna have time to. I know you're so busy. Matter of fact, before you got here, Victoria was saying,
I don't know how you
just
guys do it.
what she knew of your schedule and how you all do it and stuff like that.
It's busy.
But hopefully you'll be able to come back.
I'd love to.
One more time, before
absolutely.
right before the election.
That would be awesome. Yeah, there's so much construction going on now too. It's like maybe because it's spring again. I have to figure out a different way to go home because I saw it backed up all the way on 32, all the way to like get on the ramp to get on 95 to go north. So if you're driving that way, don't go that way. I have a few other appointments up here, and then I'm going to go back the back way.
Yeah.
Because I'm like,
go over Casadic Hill.
Yeah.
All right, we'll be back to. Oh, go ahead. I don't want to interrupt.
No, that's it. Well, this was lots of fun.
Yeah.
Tomorrow we'll have. Let's see. Paul will be back tomorrow. Well, he's over a sinus headache, I think. And of course, Chris will be here with Ask Chris Anything. So, Heather, thank you very much again, Senator Summers. And we will have you.
We'll come back next week sometime.
All right, sounds good.
That sounds good.
That sounds good. All right, we will be back again once again tomorrow Have a good day, everyone. Thanks for joining us right here at SNSN. All right, it's 80s music all day and all night. Right here. We love the 80s.
Lisa Griffin of Eastern Connecticut Savings Bank. Well, some banks offer checking account rewards, and some banks rebate ATM withdrawal fees. At Eastern, we say, why choose? Check out our Kasasa checking accounts and find out how you can get both. For